What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Brown Speaks. As you may already know, my name is Nate Goodman, and my mission here is to have meaningful conversations with interesting Brown students, faculty, and alumni in order to delve deeply into how Brown has played a pivotal role in their development and shaped the way they look at the world. I'm so thankful to be sitting alongside Deborah Mills-Scofield, an influential Brown alumna, an innovator, a mentor. During her time at Brown, she created the Cognitive Science concentration, and following graduation, she worked at Bell Labs, was successful at a VC firm, and now runs a successful business consulting firm where she mentors students and businesses. Deb is one of the sweetest and most genuine people I've met on the Hill, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share her story with all of you. Thank you so much for being here, Deb.
Thanks for doing this, kiddo.
So Deb, you've been back on campus for a few days now.
Yes.
And I imagine that you've been meeting with your student mentees. What keeps you coming back, and how is it meeting with those mentees?
What keeps me coming back is a few things. One is, while I have really cool clients that I work on helping them with strategy and innovation, there isn't the same level of intellectual stimulation that there is being back here. And I just am addicted to curiosity and learning, and so I need to come back to Brown and get my, monthly fix. And by meeting with you guys, I learn so much about what you're doing. I learn new things. I get exposed to new ideas and ways of approaching things. And then my own orthodoxy gets challenged all the time. Because you guys might ask me a question about something,
right,
and I'll say, well, this, but why am I saying that? Because it's always been that way? Well, maybe not.
Sure.
So it just keeps me mentally agile and growing.
That's amazing. And what kind of work do you do with your student mentees?
It'll depend where they are. So sometimes if it's more the underclassmen, it's what kind of courses should I think about? What should I do? It's helping them understand that they can get off the treadmill they've been on since they were 4 and actually take classes because they're curious about drawing if you've been a CS person and you've never drawn before. So a lot of it's helping those kids understand that this is the chance you have to take stuff, try it, fail, try again. And then internships, and more with upperclassmen, it's more on internships, life after Brown, career, that
Absolutely.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks. My favorite quote from your talk at the Business Innovation Factory is, "A blue lobster is a person who looks at the world, who organizes the world differently than most people, and who challenges the status quo." So my question is, how do you find those blue lobsters, and what does it take to develop them?
Well, one thing, an easy way to find them is just come up to Brown. So there are areas that tend to attract blue lobsters more than others, and maybe it's selfish, but self-selectingly, Brown tends to attract blue lobster type kids, just because of Brown, right? So it's easier for me to come here and you get a lot of blue lobsters at once. I think the way you help develop them is by letting them know they have the freedom to try a bunch of stuff. Because a lot of you guys haven't been given that freedom. Mm-hmm. And to challenge them. So part of my role as a mentor is not to tell you what to do, but to ask you questions to get you to think and critique and have you learn that those are questions to ask. And so I think that's how you develop blue lobsters, is you just keep challenging them on what they're thinking and what their expectations are and what their assumptions are.
Right. And so what kind of additive effect does that create in terms of networks and creating more blue lobsters from those previous ones?
So I figure, I don't know what the network externality and network effects are numerically, but for every one blue lobster, they're probably going to affect a few more people, or actually they're not red till they're dead. Multi-regular raw colored lobsters. So it's an exponential network growth. And then part of what I view my role is if there's a blue lobster here and a blue lobster there and they really wouldn't know each other, my job is to introduce them to each other. Mm-hmm. And then they can create and foster and develop other blue lobsters.
Wonderful. And so I know that a lot of your work is focused around networks and bringing people together. So in a general sense, what do networks mean to you, and how do they guide your life, and how do you bring them to other contexts?
To me, the network is a way to cheaply learn about a lot of new stuff, right? So I could go to grad school, and I do a lot of reading, but by having a network, especially by having a very diverse network,
Sure.
So my network's got people in mostly STEAM, so STEM, art, design, music, all over. It's a way I can keep learning new things because I learn by the different people in my network. And then by bringing them together, that then develops new things. I also just, if you look at, it's what I did at Bell Labs was network stuff. If you look at our bodies are networks of networks. Nature is network of networks. I mean, everything, our brains, everything is really network based. And so it's just, I think, innate in humanity, nature, everything. And we've developed a society that looks at things as discrete. And most of our problems in the world are system level network problems, education, healthcare, etc. And I guess I just don't know how not to look at things from a network perspective.
Right. Yeah, I really like what you said about networks enable you to meet more people and to understand them. Does that go into your principle of the I thou principle and understanding people as people? And I'm sure it does. Like, how does that play a role?
It plays a role that the network to me is a gift to be used wisely and shared wisely to help people grow and explore their own interests.
Sure.
So it is a vehicle for, if I'm in an I-thou relationship and I know this person is interested in something or wants to develop that, the network is a way for them to get exposed to that before they make a yes or no answer,
right,
and learn more. And then maybe they'll want to go to grad school, maybe they'll do who knows what. But the network to me is a way to let you start testing possibilities without having to jump all in.
Right. What kind of effects have you seen from that?
I've seen, actually in some cases, I've seen a cool medical device get developed that wouldn't have. That's kind of the extreme. I have seen new business models. I have seen some new solutions from a social impact level. I have seen young people like you guys have really cool impact on a client that was stuck in their way of thinking. And then at a really primal, whatever, basic level, just joy and fun and friendships develop that add to part of who we are as humans.
That's amazing. So going into just growing and developing as human beings, how do you continuously grow your comfort zone?
I grow my comfort zone with a lot of reading and stuff I do. I grow it by pushing clients of mine out of their comfort zone that might also be kind of out of mine, but I might not necessarily let them know that. I also grow it a lot by, again, dealing with you guys. So, doing an independent study, being the advisor for an independent study of one of you guys that's interested in something that I may not know a lot about, but I'm going to learn. I'm co-teaching a class this semester with a friend of mine who graduated 2 years before I did, who's an architect, and we're doing a class on architectural design and value proposition stuff. And I love architecture, but I'm no architect. I'm going to learn so much that way. Fortunately, she's there, so it's a safe growth. And frankly, I'm a little nervous about teaching a class up here. I know what my expectations are, and that's different than doing an independent study. So probably it's by being back here and using you guys as a vehicle for pushing myself.
Wonderful. Wow. So what do you think contributed to that intrinsic curiosity that you have? I've noticed I read about some stories and listened to some stories about your upbringing. Could you maybe speak a little bit about that?
So I think part of it's nature and nurture. So I think part of it is how I'm wired from birth. I also was raised in a home where every time we asked a question, it was answered in a way that led to another question. And every time we did something, there was always so what if? And it was an and, not an either or world. And that just kept spurring the curiosity, and it was a home that was very safe to ask questions. Almost, it was expected that you would ask questions.
Sure.
And then you would figure out ways to find out. And like my mother, on Tuesdays, we didn't go to school, and it was allowed back then. We went to New York every day. We lived in a suburb. And we went to the museums in Manhattan because they were free on Tuesdays. Wow. So you see nature and art, and my mother, who was an artist, would start, as we got older, asking us questions, why do you think you did that? Or you'd look at the texture, like on Van Gogh's or Pollock's or whatever. So just from early on, I was always pushed to be curious and to learn, and my parents were like that. My education was like that, and when my parents felt it wasn't, they took us out of school enough to get it. And then I come here, and, that's what Brown does.
Right. So looking back on those stories and from your upbringing, what would you tell yourself, your 18-year-old self, 15-year-old self now?
What I would tell myself, 15, I don't know. 15, I was in a major Rothko existential time of my life because it was the Rothko exhibit at the Guggenheim that I went to like 30 times. My 18-year-old self, I would tell, is you can't really plan 10 years. The days of, and this is true for me, I worked at Bell Labs. I thought I was going to be there for life. Well, guess what? That look at life in terms of what do you want to learn, experience, discover, explore over the next 2 to 3 years? What are the best ways to do that? And go do that. And then you just keep doing that for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
If you're privileged enough to be like us, of a socioeconomic nature that can do that. And I would just tell, be opportunistic. You can't plan. Be clear on who you are and what you stand for and what you don't stand for, your values and morality.
Right.
And outside of that, go for it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Deb.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, of course. If anyone is interested in learning more about you, contacting you, where could they go?
They could just send me an email. They can, on the Nelson page, I think there's a way to get a hold of me now, because I'm the mentoring maven. But they can just send me an email, and they can connect with me on LinkedIn.
And what is your email?
My email is my initials, DMS at Mills-Scofield.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deb. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.